House Bill 1693, as you all know, is a bill that seeks to do a continuation of the sophistication in Tennessee of charter schools. We approved charter schools in the state of Tennessee. Many of us who sat on education fought against it at that particular time. We fought against race to the top at that particular time and a lot of those issues. But the will of the legislature was that we will create charter schools. The will of the legislature was that we will do race to the top. The will of the legislature was that we will reform education. So that the will of the legislature has been, for the last 10 years, that we are changing education as we know it. And therefore, we have had a number of bills over the last 10 years which have changed education as we know it. And one of those changes has been charter schools. Now, we passed a bill last evening, if my memory serves me correct, that says that if charter schools fail, my memory fails me, 2 or 3 different assessments, that they are automatically closed. It is ironic that we don't have that on regular public schools, but we do have that on regular public charter schools, that they will close. So what we're mandating is that charter schools have to be run better, they have to be taught better, they have to be managed better than regular public schools, or we're going to close them down. Now that's what we've said. We've said that by our legislation, that we're going to put on charter schools what we have not put on regular public schools, and charter schools are public schools. So if they have to be run better, and they have to get their approval from the LEA, they have to present their charter to the LEA, they have to put every facet of management, curriculum, student services, dealing with the community, all of this has to be in their charter, which is approved by our elected officials. Now, one of the things that has become blatantly obvious over the years, that while folks may have a good charter, they may have a good idea, they may even have good teachers, but as public schools have found, management of a physical plant, management of the day-to-day operations is a businessman's concern. So consequently, we've had $4 million worth of food rotting in a warehouse. Consequently, we're closing building after building, and we're claiming the problem is physical management or lack of money. Consequently, we're ending all types of services in our regular public schools right now, where they just said they're going to do away with foreign language, and I'm sure that music, physical education, and others are not far behind. Here again, this is a management issue. So if charter schools have to be better than regular public schools, they have to produce a better product than regular public schools, then give them the tools they need. And one of the tools they need is to be able to contract with whomever they see fit, just as public schools do, where they have folks doing their food, their management, their maintenance, their yard, accounting, and they do everything but what the superintendent does, who is a professional that we hire to manage our schools. So basically what this bill does is say, give the charter schools that we created and that we give a higher standard to the ability to place within their proposal that they're going to have a management organization that is going to assist them in staying on track while they present to the LEA. The majority of the opposition against this bill has absolutely nothing to do with what is fact. And I mean that with no disrespect whatsoever, because I know that each of us have to serve our constituencies, and perception is reality with them. And many times we voice what their perception is. But let me talk about a couple of things here, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman. Number one, we've got a management company down in Memphis, which is a non-profit management company that got 7 schools. 7 schools. One person, one company that one person put together down in Memphis. They got 7 charter schools approved. Now I'm hearing, and I'm not knocking that at all, but you know, what about the transparency there, and how much of the money is going into the education of the student there? How much scrutiny is done of that particular company or that particular person or that particular entity that got 7 schools. We talk about a loss of community here again with the greatest of respect. We just closed 13 schools in Memphis. We threw the kids out with the parents crying in the Board of Education in the hallway, begging them to keep their schools open, and they threw them out of their schools. They're being transferred back and forth across town. You got rival gangs fighting because you take children from one school that was hated by the other school and move them over in the middle of that mess. And right now, one of the biggest issues that we're dealing with in the city of Memphis is the closing of the school and the corruption and the destruction of the community around that school. That's happening now, and we don't have professional management, and all that's happening right now under our current system. We keep talking about local control. And how many times have I sat here in this committee and heard us talk about local control, local LEA, local control? We have spoken with the highest of confidence that it all should be local. Let the locals, okay, this can't happen unless the locals decide. So how in the world all of a sudden we're on the other side of our mouth and the locals are stupid? They're ignorant. They're manipulated. And where that now, all of a sudden, the profit company is going to walk up and they're just going to fold and bend over and say, yes, boss, and sign the contract. All right, we got to make up our minds what we're fighting for and what we're standing for, because if we're talking about this bill has nothing to do with what I've sit here and listened to for the last 45 minutes. Not only that, bad situation. How many schools we got sitting empty in Memphis right now, collecting taxpayer dollar to maintain empty buildings for years, sitting there on the taxpayers' dollar while we're maintaining them, putting roofs on them, keeping the water from freezing, but they're sitting there empty and emptying the public coffers. We got that going on right now in the city of Memphis and I venture around the state of Tennessee. And you know, we all of a sudden, the word profit has become nasty in the state of Tennessee when we've had people out of the country answering our phones. And we have vendors for everything. Nothing wrong with it. But what I'm saying is we've got to make a decision as a state. We'll make these big grandiose decisions and these big grandiose gestures, and we're one of the two that gets raced to the top, and we're moving into the future. And then when it comes time to make the tough decisions, we start backing up on innuendo, false facts, false perceptions, and just plain untruths.